welcome back to Dos Amigos.
Dos Amigos.
This is Wilmer Valderrama.
This is Freddy Rodriguez.
And you know, in the last episode, we were thinking like, oh, surprise pop-up thing, you know. And I feel like we've been talking about so much insightful stuff that we should go back to like what fills in the other 13 hours of the flight to London.
Oh, shit.
So this episode, we thought, hey man, let's just, let's create aesthetics, you know. So right now we're wearing the shoes, and we just noticed that our shoes are
Similar.
by the same company, and they're Nike, but their colors, it's gold, gray, and black. Gold, gray, and black.
Yeah,
we got Jordans. I think these are Pegasus.
We were in
running.
sync when we got dressed today.
And he brought us back to those days when we used to be invited to Marina del Rey to the Nike warehouse.
Shout out to Tracy.
Tracy Gray.
Tracy Gray.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I hope you're listening to this. I wish you would have given us these for free. They're pretty expensive nowadays. But
where are you, Tracy?
But yeah, definitely shout out to her because she was making all of our young men's our dreams come true. You go in there, then Mini Mini Mo, she was so generous, It's like really kind of amazing.
It was this wonderful facility. Obviously, right? Nike has to advertise, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's commercials or wherever it is. And it was at a point where they would equip celebrities, I guess, right? With some Nike gear, and we would wear it, and that would be a form of advertisement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you were telling this awesome story about DJ AM.
Oh, yeah.
And taking him there.
Yeah.
And how he was the first DJ that they embraced on that commercial level.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, this is the style episode. Yeah. We're going to just title it. But yeah, I'm going to start this segment of this conversation with a little bit of just a tribute to the man who is now a legend, DJ AM.
Yeah.
Adam was, in my definition, one of the best DJs of our entire generation.
Yeah.
The mark he left behind, the amount of incredible DJs he mentored, the incredible amount of artists that he inspired, the idea that he could mash up Sweet Home Alabama and Biggie.
Yeah.
It was like just unreal. Like no one was doing that. No one was doing that. It was also throwing it back to the days of like, Run DMC and Aerosmith.
Wow, right.
But this guy was doing it with radio and like underground hits, and he would play Oasis at the end of the night, after a big hip hop scene, it was like and so he just was such a pioneer, not just for music, but for style. I mean, the guy wore a different Air Force One every single night.
Every single night.
He never repeated Air Force Ones.
And that's how vast his collection was.
He had a huge collection. And so one day I rolled in with some, limited Air Force Ones to the club, with him. And then I rolled up. He's like, yo, Wilmer, where'd you get those? I was like, I don't know, dude. I think I got them in a box from Nike. But he goes, whoa. You're getting free Nikes? And I was like, and at the time, everyone who's listening, there was these programs at all these companies. This was their way of seeding their product through pop culture. Right? They would go to actors and musicians and athletes, and they would just give them stuff to wear in the street, because they knew that when they would go out there, people would look at them, and they most likely would look down to their shoes or the jacket they were wearing, and by the way, it was a very, very effective, kind of a marketing strategy, right? Because you were just giving free product to an artist and getting free advertising. Right. You didn't have to pay them an endorsement deal. You didn't have to pay them a commercial deal. Right. You can literally put free stuff on them, and if somebody saw it and they're like, I like the shoes that Freddy's wearing, they go to Nike and be like, I just saw this gray, blah, blah, blah. So it was converting into actual profit for a lot of these companies. Anyways, he saw like, you get free stuff. And I was like, yeah. He goes, man, it's like my dream to go to the Nike warehouse.
So he knew about it already?
He knew about the Marina del Rey.
It was
like infamous. It's like, I heard they have a basketball court in there, and I heard they have the first Nike shoes in there. Like, so he was really into it and really knew everything about it. And I was like, you've never been to it? He's like, and dude, he at this point, he's like, we're the biggest DJ.
Right.
Like, Janet Jackson in the in the DJ booth with him, like playing
Right.
my latest single. You know,
He was like Diplo
it was
before Diplo.
yes,
Calvin Harris before Calvin Harris.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely,
Right.
and I will say he was moments away from having all his stuff play on the radio.
Yeah.
He was gonna be the first one, you know. And all his original tracks is incredible, you know. Anyways, going back to the Nike story, so he's like, wait, you go to the warehouse? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? And
Yeah.
you get free stuff? And I was like, yeah, dude, I get free stuff. I'm like, look at these, you know. He's like, oh man, those are crazy.
Right.
Oh man, I hope one day I can go there. And I was like, bro, like, what are you doing tomorrow? He's like, no, dog,
Dog.
homie, that'd be crazy. He always call me homie, that'd be crazy. I was like, what'd be crazy? He goes, you gonna take me to the warehouse? And I was like, yeah. And I've been to the warehouse at this point like 19 times. So I'm
Right.
like, yes. It's like we just show up. We don't even tell them anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, you sure, man? Like, you sure? Is that cool with you? Like, I mean, man, it would be a dream come true. And I was like, bro, let's go. So I went and picked him up. He wore his cleanest Air Force Ones. We rolled up to the warehouse in Marina Del Rey. Tracy Gray, who
Yep.
you know very well,
Yep.
you know, greeted us outside. And she's like, hey. And I was like, remember I was telling you my friend was a DJ? I said, you know, you always have artists here. You always have actors and musicians and athletes. But the DJs are the ones who really transcend in the streets. I mean, these guys really wear the flyest stuff, you know, when they're performing. And she's like, no, welcome. I'm excited. Look, a friend of Wilmer is a friend of mine. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
We get inside. And dude, it was like,
She takes you to that special room.
yes, it's in the special
you remember
room.
that
And then
was
the
like-
thing opens and
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
my God. It was
Yeah, yeah.
literally like a 7-year-old going to Disneyland for the first time.
Wow.
It was that type of thing that you were just like, oh my God, this is larger. And like all of the different rooms were themed.
Yeah.
You remember what?
Oh,
you remember
man.
some of the themes?
The golf room. There was the Jordan room. There was sort of like, it was almost like walking into like a Nike store. But,
Yeah.
but they would walk you in and go, pick one.
Yes.
Like,
And I said, what do you mean pick one?
What do
He
you mean
goes, yeah, what size are you? I go, 10 and a half.
pick?
And then they're like, try these on. They fit really good.
They fit
They
well.
fit really good. Thank you. And I take them off and give them right back. And they're like, no, these are yours. I said, I'm sorry. You mean like I can take this home? I mean, it was like just bizarre. You were like, what are you kidding me? You're giving me
Right.
free shoes?
Right.
I mean, like, it was just so cool. And she was so nice. And you know, he came in, he told her the story of his shoes. And then he told her, you know, he started looking at all the stuff on the walls and all the limited edition. And he was like, he knew more story about that stuff than anyone else.
Wow.
And he just was an encyclopedia of Nike and trend and different eras and different decades and the things that were released. And Tracy was so impressed by that. She was like, wow, Adam, like that's a lot of knowledge there, you know. And she's like, hey, so what size are you? And his eyes, he looked at me, he goes, no.
Right.
I was just here visiting with Wilmer. Like he didn't think he was gonna get a pair of shoes. He just thought he was gonna see the warehouse.
Yeah.
And then she gives him, I forget what series she gave him some beautiful Air Force Ones.
Wow.
And he was so appreciative. And she was so taken back how grateful he was and how much he loved the brand.
Right.
Because, you know, artists come in there, they're just like, oh yeah, I'll
it's
take
just
the
like
free
free
stuff.
stuff. Yeah,
But to this
yeah,
dude
yeah,
meant
he knew.
everything, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so I gave Tracy his number and all that stuff. And then, like, we went back to our normal lives, you know? And then all of a sudden, he's like, yo, dude, just want to say, man, thank you. Because I'm going to the warehouse by myself. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, cool. And then he called me again, like, whatever, like 2 months later. He goes, dude, you won't believe this, man. I'm going to design the DJ AM Air Force Ones.
Wow.
I say, what? He goes, yeah, man, it's crazy. Thank you, man. Thank you. I was like, no, dude, you deserve it. Of course.
Yeah.
And then like a year after that, Tracy called him and said, hey, we'd love for you to be in the Kobe Bryant commercial for Nike. Wow. So all of a sudden, AM is the first DJ in the history of DJs
Right.
to be in a national Nike commercial with Kobe Bryant, who's a multi-champion at the time.
Yeah.
And it was just magic, you know. It was a perfect.
Yeah. And how did that even happen? Just because she recognized his knowledge of Air Force One? I
At
mean,
this point,
but
she
for that to
told,
parlay into
well, because I'm sure she told me after it, and I realized that, and she started asking around, who's this guy in DJ AM? And then I told her everything about him, but then when she started hearing it from everybody else,
Right.
staff and the team, and people knew exactly who he was,
Right.
she realized, oh, this is a very interesting, unique. He wasn't even underground anymore. He was pretty mainstream.
Right.
He he was just a massive moment, and she then recognized that and realized this is a very unique way to go with Nike. It's a destination we've never gone, and it makes the most sense. The music, the lifestyle, it all made a lot of sense for the brand, and they started expanding into that direction.
That's so cool that she had the foresight, right? Because now, right, as I was saying, the Diplos and the Calvin Harrises of the world, who all have residencies now, and
Right.
who all Tiesto, all those
Right.
guys, right? But she kind of recognized the potential of that way before it was mainstream or popular.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Steve Aoki. Shout out to my brother Steve Aoki.
Yeah, Stevie Aoki.
He was the part of that generation, and AM mentored him in a lot of incredible things, and then they partner up on things together. They had their own club together and everything.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
I
then
didn't know that.
then Aoki just became, his own
Yeah.
iconic brand, and he
Yeah.
just soared. And
Yeah, with the cakes and the sort of incorporating this kind of theater aspect to DJing.
Yeah, and so the more I remember, the more I tell the story, the more it just makes me sad because of the potential he had, and just to catch everybody up, I'm talking about Adam, DJ AM, who was one of the biggest DJs of our generation of the 2000s, and he's no longer with us. Unfortunately, he lost his battle.
Right.
And it was just really, really, really sad because he right now would have built something very special.
Wow.
I mean, he would have been probably the biggest music producer. He probably would have made so much music that would have redefined so much of what we do. Like a lot of music today that's made is popular in radio and it plays, But what he was doing, he was doing timeless music that really could last.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty incredible. But
I have a music story too, if I may share.
Yes, of course.
I've never told the story, but I'm gonna say it right now. When I was shooting Dead Presidents, we got an invitation to a birthday party, and the whole cast was invited to this big birthday party that was going to have a bunch of music people in it. And I'm 19 years old. I'm right out of high school. I'm a big hip hop head. I'm in New York in '94, sort of the apex of like that early '90s hip hop movement. And I get invited to this birthday party, and as soon as I walk in, I see Dougie Fresh. I see J. Rue the Damager. I see Grand Poobah from Brand Nubians. All of these people that just the year before I was in high school listening to like their CDs, And right before I did that movie, I was doing a movie called A Walk in the Clouds, and it was produced. One of the producers on it was this old school guy named Jim Brubaker. And you would have known Jim. He did like a lot of like the Stallone movies in the 70s and 80s. And eventually he went on to run physical production over at Universal and oversaw movies like Liar Liar and all those early Jim Carrey movies. But Jim was a teamster, old school gruff teamster who became a producer, right? So he had that sensibility about him. And while I was doing A Walk in the Clouds, I auditioned for Dead Presidents and I got it. And I came back to set and he goes, "Hey, I heard you got this movie Dead Presidents. Are you gonna go do it?" He was like, "Hey, is Tupac in that movie?" And I was like, "I have no idea," right? He just assumed because it was like an urban movie. And he goes, "Well, if Tupac is in that movie or you ever meet Tupac, you tell him you know me, Jim Brubaker." He goes, "Because I produced Above the Rim and I was with Tupac at each and every one of his court cases when we were doing that movie."
whoa,
And so I was like, okay, Jim Brubaker, Tupac, tell him I know him. Great. Got it, right? I was like a 19-year-old kid.
By the way,
head,
this
right?
story is already epic. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So cut to, I'm doing the presidents. I go to this party. I see all of these musical artists that I've admired forever. All of a sudden, I see Tupac, right?
No way.
And in my brain, Jim Brubaker, Tupac, go say hi, right? I'm approaching Tupac, and all of a sudden, this big guy just kind of gets in front of me, right, and starts talking to Tupac. And I look up, and it's Biggie Smalls. And
What?
So like, yeah, so I didn't understand like the significance of the moment that I was witnessing, you know. And I was just there like watching Biggie and Tupac hug each other and give each other so much love and respect. And of course I'm sitting there like a kid, right, waiting for that interaction to stop so I can go tell them. And then another person comes into their circle, another person, and then I miss my opportunity, right? So about a week later, I'm at this club called the Palladium in New York, and I'm passing by the VIP section, and lo and behold, I see Tupac in the VIP section, and I can tell he looks over to me, and I go like this, and I'm waving him over, right? Like no sense of etiquette or anything, and he's looking at me like, who the hell is this guy waving me over, right? And see, he comes over with all this bravado, and he's like, yo, what's up, man? And I was like, hey, I introduced myself, and I'm like, I'm here doing this movie. And by the way, Jim Brubaker wanted me to. And as soon as I said Jim's name, it's like all that bravado went all out the window. And he was like, oh my God, tell Jim I said hello and that I met you.
way.
And like, yeah, man, it was like mob like respect right there, right? So about a week after that, I go to work and like everybody's faces was long. You know, I can tell that there was a sadness on set, and I'm like, hey, what happened? They're like, man, you know, Tupac just got shot in this studio.
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean he just got shot? I just talked to that guy like a week ago. He goes, no, man, he got shot, you know. And as the story unfolded, you know, everyone thought that Biggie shot him in that studio. And they were saying that on set. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. Well, how could that be, man? I just saw them hugging, like right in front of me, you know. And then the movie ended, and you know I went back home, and then all of that East Coast West Coast thing started, you know. And
That's a big. That war was the most unfortunate
yeah
moment for history, in hip hop history, I should say.
Yeah. And then Tupac died, and then Biggie died, and so like.
And,
you know,
and it ended that.
Yeah, well, just like me seeing it unfold and seeing those two guys die, you know, it brings a certain level of sadness to me because every time I would see that, or because all I can think of was like being in front of these two guys and like watching them hug and give each other
Two titans.
Two titans, man. Yeah, and I may be wrong, but I remember that night at the party. Biggie had just put out his album. He had this really big song called "The What." Well, it wasn't big, but it was like a great song on his album. And it was him and Method Man, and him and Method Man were performing it at this party. And I remember Tupac like being on stage with them, just like you know vibing with them, you know. So
it's so anyway, unfortunate, man. Imagine.
So that's my music story.
Well, that's a pretty epic music story you could ever think of. You know, I mean, especially now when we think about the deep diving of hip hop and the evolution of hip hop. You know, things are getting a little crazy in hip hop right now too. You know, you think about the Drake and Kendrick, you know, beef. That's I don't know who wins this. I mean, obviously Kendrick is absolutely in the lead on this one. You know, but it's just like, you know, hip hop is this place, you know, and I know that some of the structure of the DNA of hip hop is this. It's the beef, it's the territorial stuff. Yeah. It's like it's rooted within the hip hop thing. It's unfortunate to see, you know, people have to, you know, take L's, you know, along the way. But I will say, hip hop's evolution has been so interesting. You know, you talked about a moment in hip hop that was really just redefining of the hip hop that was before that, right? Yeah. And then you go where hip hop went 10, 20 years after that.
Yeah.
It's like it's a well, I mean, I guess 10, 15 years after that. You know, how long has it been since it passed?
I mean, 20
20,
years.
20
Yeah.
years or so.
Yeah.
So you think the evolution, like the hip hop is like, we can't do this again, so let's
Yeah.
just put hooks into these
Yeah.
songs and make them love songs and
Oh, right,
right. It
right,
just went
right.
to a different.
I mean,
place.
there's always been a sense of rivalry and a sense of battle, like whether it's breaking or rapping or whatever. There's always been this sort of sense of battle. You know, it's just unfortunate when it gets taken to a level where
Yeah.
someone loses their life or you know, even what's happening now.
Right.
You know.
Did you ever ever spit some bars for Tupac?
No.
Because you know that
Thank
episode's
God.
coming, right? You know,
Thank God,
Freddie,
yeah.
you know that episode's coming, right? Where you're
Thank
gonna have to
God.
either
Oh,
freestyle
man.
or we're gonna have
No,
to
no.
play some of.
No, no one wants to hear that.
Oh, everyone wants
No
to
one
hear
wants to
that.
hear that,
Everything. In
no.
fact, we're changing the Dos Amigos soundtrack to one of your old tracks for sure.
There you go. There you go.
But speaking of fashion, which by the way, what a beautiful
Yeah.
sidetrack to tell those great
Oh
stories.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
We started
but,
talking about music, so I
yeah.
hope that was all right.
what's your cologne?
what's your let's see, what am I,
Hey man,
hey,
what's
man,
your cologne, man?
man? I rock some Drakkar Noir.
Hey,
bro.
don't take
Like,
my stuff, bro. Don't take my stuff. I
Are
remind
you,
everyone of
Drakkar? Are
them.
you a Drakkar? Were you
Oh
a Drakkar
yeah,
man?
man. I was a Drakkar for like
Like heavy,
35 years of my life.
heavy,
I mean, heavy, man.
heavy, heavy.
And you know, they say, oh, your car smells a little different on everybody. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It smelled pretty similar to my favorite UPS guy. You know, like when
Why
remind-
was Drakkar your cologne?
My
for,
dad.
Your pop.
My dad was like,
Did he used to put it over like his gold chain, so then his gold chain smelled like
he
Drakkar
start with
and like
one a spray on each side of the neck,
right,
on each shoulder,
yeah,
on each
shoulder,
on each chest.
Wow, I don't think I've heard that.
You
one.
know,
Yeah.
stomach, pants.
Wow.
It was.
He had a
it
system.
Was, oh yeah, he had a system.
He had a system.
Yeah. He was. It was almost like you were putting bug repeller. You know,
Wow.
like it was like you were just spraying bug off. You know,
Yeah.
just covering everything. You know.
So it was
Yeah.
like he passed down the bottle.
And
to
even
his
right now,
son,
like even right now, my daughter would go hang out with my dad, and
Yeah.
she would come back smelling like Drakkar. I'm like, Jesus, Dad, just a little less when you hang out with my daughter, please. But yeah, so I used to do Drakkar for a very long time.
Yeah. Back then, I used to do Eternity cologne. Did you ever? Eternity was my joint.
Did you
when I
ever
was
do
in high
CK
school.
one?
I didn't. No.
Oh
no,
yeah,
I-
because you were a reasonable human being. Yeah.
Why?
Because
Was
CK1 came
not-
in, and I was like, that was what all the kids were wearing. I'm like, I gotta do CK1 because it's either that and Abercrombie and Fish. I never did Abercrombie and Fish. I never
Oh, yeah,
crossed
never
over to
did
that place.
one, yeah.
But yeah, CK1 was another one that people were really into.
My brothers were really into cologne. I mean, they did like Pierre Cardin, Obsession.
Yeah.
Remember Obsession?
A lot of my friends like
Aramis?
Cool Water. Is that what it was?
Cool Water. Yeah. Snoop mentioned that in the song.
Yeah.
Aramis cologne. Did you remember Aramis? I mean, these are like hardcore, like 80s
Yes.
colognes.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
But my brothers were really heavy into it. But no, man, it was like I was Eternity for a while.
Well, to CK1, Calvin Klein had that CK1.
Yeah.
And then Tommy Hilfiger had a thing that everybody
yeah,
that wore the Tommy Hilfiger, they would spray the Tommy Hilfiger cologne too. What about let me see? Oh, hair product. What did you put in your hair?
Ooh, hair product.
If you're gonna ask me if I did Tres Flores, the answer is yes.
What is the?
Go ahead, you finish your sentence.
Wait,
And I'll talk about my hair
whoa.
trauma. Okay.
What is Tres Flores?
Tres Flores is like this kind of oil wax thing, you know, that you like put in your
Like
hand.
a pomade? What is
It's
that?
like a pomade, but it's more like grease.
Like manteca?
It's straight up manteca,
like
bro.
lard?
Straight up manteca. Straight up manteca. And what was nuts about it is like, as you know, the summers are very tough here in LA.
yeah,
And I would put that in my hair and it was just try to slick it back, you know, just for that shine thing. And I had like the little combs that will cover your hand. You know, you put your finger on it and then you just do this. And come, noon, 1 o'clock, it gets really hot.
Oh,
that
start
starts
dripping.
starts
Oh
melting into your forehead,
no,
and the
no.
forehead starts breaking out. Yeah, Tres Flores, bro.
Oh, dude,
Tres Flores.
was
I learned that from my homies, eh?
from your
Yeah, my
homies.
homies did Tres Flores all the time, man.
That must have been like an LA thing. I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what was hard in Chicago? Aquanet hairspray. Did you guys do Aquanet here?
Aquanet, yeah, it was
Man,
everywhere.
I'll tell you something. I remember like we used to have to take the bus, and Chicago is crazy cold. Sometimes you're taking the bus, it's like below 0, and the girls. I remember the girls like their hair would be wet, and they'd put Aquanet hairspray, and they get out in the cold, and it would freeze the Aquanet hairspray on their hair,
Would
and
it crack?
you would just see the white from the hairspray on their hair. I kid you not, man. I mean, they'd be there like shh,
Yeah,
in the bathroom, this big like smoke. I had a lot of girl
Did
cousins
you ever do
too.
mousse?
No, I was more of just sort of like a hairspray dude, like I had a mullet. Did you have a
Oh,
mullet?
hairspray, yeah.
Did you ever have a mullet?
No, I never had a mullet. I had a bowl cut.
Oh, I used to rock a mullet hard. Hard.
I
I even had like lines on the side.
Oh, you were way cooler
like
than me, dog.
Mullet, like
Dog,
like
you were
blow
way cooler
dried
than
hair
me.
in the front.
Way cooler than me.
Bro, you never had a mullet? You were a busboy and you never had a mullet? Come on. All busboys back then had mullets.
I was a busboy in the valley, bro.
You didn't have a mulatino?
No, I did not. I did not party. What is it? Business
Party
in the front, party in the
Party in
back.
the front.
No, man. I had my dad was making sure that my supercut, haircut was conservative enough to stay out of trouble.
And Drakkar mullets went together, man.
They did.
It was like
They
peanut butter and jelly.
that and UPS trucks,
UPS trucks.
But I think
Did your pop rock a mullet?
no, he was the guy that was like blow drying every morning.
Right.
Blow dry, blow dry, blow dry, blow dry, blow dry, blow dry.
And
Like
then he lock it in.
Well, he would blow dry it and it would just stay the way
Yeah.
he wanted it.
Was he an Aquanet hairspray?
No,
My,
no, but I what did I do? My hair is like I have the mixture of my dad and my mom's hair.
Yeah.
It's very thick and it's a lot of it. Mm-hmm. So I have to put so much product in my hair. So
Right.
like there's tons of pictures from my 20s where I just have
you slick
literally
it.
glue. Like just glue, put it and just slick it all the way back, and it was like
I remember being at you and I got an award
Yeah.
one time, and I remember you had your hair like that. I'm up thinking like, oh man, that looks cool.
yeah, it looked like
You look very
it looked
regal.
like a mafioso, like
No, you look very regal.
yeah. Okay, thanks.
You had a regal, and then you had a suit on, and I was like,
Thanks,
oh
yeah.
man, that looks cool.
I always
Wilmer.
I always kind of identify the slick hair back look with like I'm elegant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just and I had a Macy's suit. I go to
Yeah.
Sears and Macy's to get my suits at the first couple of years of my career because I didn't have
Yeah.
money. I was in pain like that, So
Yeah.
I was just slick my hair back and be like, I am elegant now.
Quite dapper.
Yeah, quite dapper. Yeah.
Quite dapper.
That's good. And what about? Oh, this is an interesting question. Where did you get your socks?
Socks.
Let me ask you why. Let me tell you why. Let me
Yeah.
tell you why. Because we used to go to the store and like buy the packs
Oh yeah.
at Costco.
Oh yeah. Like Hanes.
Yeah,
type?
like yeah,
Right.
it was. Did you ever get clothes at Costco?
Yeah, the socks. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Socks and underwear from Costco.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, like my kids, that's like Christmas present for them. Even they're older.
My mom
too.
still puts that in a bag under the
I
Christmas tree.
mean, come on, you
Yeah.
could always use new underwear.
Yeah,
new
my dad gives
socks,
me colognes every year too.
What is okay? So Drakkar does he still give you Drakkar?
He doesn't give me Drakkar anymore. He just wants to switch it up.
So what does he give you? What does he deem as like?
Like
the
he
good-
goes and gets like a Chanel one, and I'm like, Dad, like
yeah.
that's too expensive. Like I'm never gonna wear a Chanel cologne,
like Baccarat,
Yeah,
or
something
like
like that.
Aventus or something like that. Yeah.
Are you where do you get a suit? If you're like, I'm gonna go get a suit, where do you get it from?
Huh. I find that like John Varvatos fits me well. I think that brand fits me well across the board. You know, whether it's like a leather jacket or a
Yeah,
suit.
they are great cuts.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been sticking to them. What else did I get? I got Yeah, no, I mean I think them primarily. The show I just did on CBS Bull, all of my suits were all John Varvatos
Oh,
from
right,
there.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
just
look
'cause it
great
fit
in
me
that.
so.
You look very elegant.
Thank you. I look
Very elegant.
Dapper, dapper.
Very dapper too.
Very dapper. Okay.
I feel like they use mousse in your hair in that show. No.
No, what they use? Michael was my hair guy. Yeah, I think he did use mousse. He used to blow dry it, and he had a very specific system in place for it. And he was awesome. Had a great makeup and hair team.
But it's interesting to think also about
Yeah,
how much our fashion has changed.
yeah,
Every decade was a thing,
right.
know? And for me, I wear the same thing if
What
I'm
about
in
you?
that decade. I.
Like what? Like what? So what would be a good suit for you?
Well,
What's your go-to
for
brand
suits,
right now? Yeah,
for suits, I think Paul Smith is a good one.
Paul Smith. Yeah,
Paul Smith fits
yeah,
me
he
really
is
well. I don't
good.
have to alter a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I love how he does all the different colors on
Yeah.
the inside. And
but I like
do you do the socks too? Do you rock his Paul
The
Smith
socks are
with
cool,
the-
but I hate to. Yeah, but let's keep it real. I'm gonna keep it very real.
Yeah.
The Paul Smith socks don't hold well.
What do you mean? Over
Like
time?
you bring it up over here and they don't
Oh,
have
the
that grip.
elastic.
Yeah,
The
they don't
elastic,
have a
okay.
grip.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like the fabric is so thin, it's so like
Right.
delicate. It just doesn't. I love the prints right of the
Yeah.
socks. They're really different, but it just like falls apart.
Yeah, that's a good brand, Paul Smith. I have a.
But I
Paul
do
Smith
like
suit.
I'm a big double RL guy,
Yeah.
which is
Well, I
like
saw that the 3-piece joint that you had on the previous episode was pretty freaking cool.
yeah. So I do that.
Is it more casual or is it?
It's
or
like in
is it,
between, right? It's in between. It's like it could be formal enough if you want to go to an evening thing, but like also formal and casual enough that you can wear it all day to like if like meetings here and there and all that stuff. So I really like that stuff.
Where do you get that? I mean, because you go.
So
to
they have their own
regular
store.
right? Like
They have
they're
their
like
own
kind
store.
of like.
You can do
Yeah.
it online too, but I go to the store on Melrose. They have like a really cool and those guys are awesome. They really help me out when I get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like double RL because it's like you're trying, but you're not.
Mm-hmm,
And it's also very comfortable.
And the way they do their stores, right? They really know how to sort of
Yeah.
set
So
up.
for those
set a
who don't know
tone
what
or-
double RL is it's a sub collection of Ralph Lauren, but it is kind of like a little bit more all American cowboy, a little bit more vintage, old school formal soldier. Like it's like very
Yeah.
like old school Americana. Like
Yeah.
really really cool stuff.
Why do you like that?
I just have never seen people like me wear that,
Mm.
and I thought it was such a unique look.
Classic Americana.
Yeah, it was like West. It was a little Western and a little bass or
yeah.
whatever, and I just thought it was like really unique and
Huh.
really fun, and I was right. Not a lot of people wear, So
Right.
but
right.
but it's also hard to find sometimes, because there's not stores anywhere,
Yeah. But no, that's interesting what you just said about people who look like you normally don't wear that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's and I think I guess when it comes to fashion, I don't know, when I was very young, I started thinking like I have to dress like who I want to be.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't have a sense of fashion at the beginning, right? So like I would be dressing like in quotes who I wanted to be, and I just got a suit at Sears. You know what I mean? Like it was just like.
So why Sears?
Yeah.
With
Because it was
affordability
cheap.
or-
Because it was so cheap. It was
I
like
see,
it's
I see.
my first suit that I took to my first upfront when I got my first show.
Yeah.
was from Sears.
For the Fox up front?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. People are like, this is a nice suit. Where'd you
a
get it? And I'm like, hello.
They open the inside, says Sears.
Yeah, exactly. No, like it literally is
Yeah.
a Sears brand.
No, style and fashion. When you grew up in Chicago and you grew up in the inner city, style is everything. Everything, man. It determines you, your personality.
But there was so much influence then, so everybody could follow a stream. LA was all over the place.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, it was all over the place. Like if depending on where you lived, like Tommy Hilfiger had a moment, Abercrombie and Fish
Right.
had a moment, and then like you know, and there was like the Dickie generation, you know, and
Oh,
like
yeah, the
that kind of
Dickies,
stuff, you know.
yeah.
So it's like then Diesel came with all the jeans, and
Yeah.
everyone's wearing Diesel jeans all the time.
Did you ever wear Ed Hardy?
No, I wasn't that festive.
Yeah, me. I
Yeah,
wasn't that festive.
Ed Hardy, that's definitely not me.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
me
couldn't
too,
do the
man.
rhinestones,
No.
rhinestone jeans, you know, like I
Yeah.
just couldn't do those, you know.
Yeah, I mean, no diss, but I
No
just
this. No
wasn't.
this. Some people wear them, and they, you know, they definitely, you know, they like their V-necks, you know.
They like their V. Hey, did you ever see that skit on SNL with Ben Stiller, the V-neck skit where he gets arrested because his V-neck is too?
No, I did not see it. Everybody after this episode has homework.
Anyway,
Everyone's about to go check out that.
Sidebar. Yeah, you know what was big in Chicago, you know, at that time, and you know what's crazy is that that's all coming back now. I just saw Pharrell wearing, or even Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl.
Oh,
He had these
yeah.
like flared,
The bell bottoms.
yeah, man,
Bell bottom
that was
jeans with the
huge in
with
the
the with the
90s,
puffy
man.
leather jacket. Really cool look, by the way. I really liked what
Yeah.
he was wearing.
So you know, it's funny. I tell you, my two sons, you know, as as they were growing up, they would see photos of me in the '90s, and like, and all they did was make fun of me, man. Made fun of my hairstyle, made fun of my clothes. Oh my God, Dad, you look so '90s. Look at your curtain hair. You know, you know that style like this.
Oh yeah.
They would call that the curtain hairstyle because it looked like a
So
curtain.
rude.
Yeah.
So rude.
And then cut to, my son has a curtain hairstyle now. He's dressing exactly like I dressed in the '90s. And I'm like, well, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Like all these years you made fun of me, and now he goes, well, it's the style now, Dad,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow, that's cool.
But you see Kendrick wearing sort of like
Yeah, I
the
mean, all
stuff,
that
you
retro
know.
thing is back.
Yeah.
You know, everybody boycotted it during the time it was popular, and now it's coming back as this trend.
The '90s are back.
Everybody. I mean, I've seen so many of my nephew's friends, you know, wearing literally '90s clothes,
Right.
like vintage '90s clothes, like they're brand new.
Did you, when you did the '90s show, was that part of like, were they that specific when you did that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they really authentically. I mean, our stuff was vintage clothes from the '90s.
So did you find that you were wearing stuff like that?
Yeah, I went with like a more of like a richer gear, you know, kind of this
Richard Gere
direction.
in the '90s.
Yeah, I was doing '90s
Like
Richard
Internal
Gere.
Affairs, Richard Gere?
Yeah,
Or
like
was
high
that 90s?
high waisted pants, you know, and like
yeah.
the puffy little coat, and you know.
Right. Oh, that's a good point of reference. Was that your point of reference when you were doing the show?
And probably because I've never seen someone like me wear the Richard Gere. By the way,
The
also
ongoing
I like to point out that Richard Gere is making a heroic comeback into pop culture. I just watched him on the Agency.
At the Agency, yeah.
God, so good.
Yeah, he kills it.
He
man.
was born to play a boss, bro. He was so good.
He always killed. You know, I watched that show and I go, "Damn, Richard, where you been, man?"
Yeah, we missed you, man.
I feel a little robbed. Like
Yeah.
I
And I've been seeing him in
wanna
some
see more
interviews,
of
and he's
him,
like
you know?
very, very. He's got opinions. He's really sharing his mind, and I respect that he's, you know, he's coming out here and saying his mind. It's just awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But have you ever worked with Richard Gere?
Never. Yeah. No, I wish. I mean,
Well, we would have been, you know, it would have been a romantic comedy or something. It would have been a romantic, right? Like he did mostly was like this romantic.
Or did you ever see Internal Affairs?
Yeah.
With Andy.
Incredible.
I mean, those guys were at their apex, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
they were just so. That movie was so. It holds up now. You try
Totally.
to watch that movie, it holds up now.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is a really good opportunity to ask all of the fans out there that, you know,
Yeah.
if there's topics, there's things you guys want us to discuss or dive into, anything from his career or, you know, ideals and stuff like that, values, you know, we can really dive into. But there's tons of pop culture to explore. So,
Absolutely.
thank you for sitting with us today.
Thank you,
As
thank
we
you.
went into this was like a magazine. You went like flipping through magazines, and you went through even ads also, you know.
But it gives the fans an insight into like you and I just sort of. This is like normal.
This is how we do.
Wilmer and I diving into different topics, and you know.
That's how we do. Well, thank you, everyone, and see you on the next episode. This is Wilmer Valderrama.
This is Freddy Rodriguez.
And you just chatted with those amigos.
Peace.